We're talking about the NHS going into crisis. HS2, nothing actually happens. It's got crumbling schools. I mean, the general view in this country is that nothing really works anymore. But maybe that's because our civil servants spend so much time not doing their jobs, but having diversity, equality and inclusion training and bullying people who believe in biological facts. Well, that is the evidence from a new set of research carried out by the Telegraph looking into, well, just extraordinary treatment of what are called gender-critical people, i.e. people who understand the notion of biology, working in Whitehall. Let's talk to Helen Joyce. She's author of Trans, Gender Identity and the New Battle for Women's Rights and is also a member of Sex Matters. Good morning to you, Helen.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us. This report is absolutely fascinating. This report says that basically it's not just good enough that people, are allowed to sort of, have their personal preference pronouns on their badges in Whitehall or insist that someone calls them he if they were born a woman or whatever it is. But they're actually calling people who don't agree with that stuff Nazis in Whitehall and people are being bullied. Tell us what this research found.
So this is some excellent investigative reporting by the Telegraph that did a bunch of FOIs and then followed up
That's
with
freedom of information requests.
Yeah, that's right. And so they found that all over Whitehall, all through the civil service, there are these networks, LGBTQIA++ networks, or whatever they like to call themselves, and they are absolutely embedded, and senior people in various departments are organising training through HR that tells people in straightforward words that any woman who says that a man can't be a woman is a Nazi, a bigot, a racist, an anti-Semite.
And they actually use those words.
Well, they've used Nazi in training. I mean, that one's been captured and the Telegraph has confirmed that one. I mean, I've been called all of those things for just saying that men can't be women. So that's
just what happens on social media. But if that happens in your workplace, so we know that
I know it happens in people's workplaces.
So someone could be disciplined. Someone could be disciplined for refusing to sort of play along with the idea that a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man, even if you're not. We know Maya Forstatter, your colleague at Sex Matters, who went and going to tribunals, losing her job because of just a tweet that she wrote. But this is happening to people in Whitehall, in the government, where
yes.
Have we not had a Prime Minister and a Home Secretary and others who have said quite categorically, and Equalities Minister said categorically that they don't sign up to any of this stuff?
I mean, this has happened after 13 years of a Conservative-led government. So they don't have control of their departments, I can tell you that. And I know that the civil servants, the ones who like this stuff, are just ignoring what they're being told on the grounds that they won't have to put up with it for much longer because soon Labour will be running things. And that's their feeling. They can get away with this. I mean, unless people lose their jobs for misrepresenting the law and for harassing women and so on, then they will continue to do so.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't want people cancelled. I want people to believe whatever they darn well want to believe. In the same way, I don't want people cancelled for believing in a God I don't believe in. But the point is, they can't force other people to say that they believe in something. We would never ever say to someone, well, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Hindu, and I insist that you accept my belief system. But gender ideology, trans ideology, is a belief system. It's not backed up by, scientific fact. It simply isn't. That is a matter of scientific fact. So the idea that people could be forced to do that and then face abuse at work, and then they are the people who are disciplined or face losing their job as opposed to the bulliers, that is quite extraordinary. How do we tackle this? Because we've had Rishi Sunak, I asked him last year, is a trans woman a woman? No. We know Suella Braverman, we know Kemi Badenoch, they're perfectly sane on these issues. Many other politicians and the Conservatives speak out on these issues. And yet, they do nothing in their own departments to stop this happening.
I mean, there's a duty of civil service and impartiality. Every civil servant who acts like this is really breaking the thing that they sign when they become a civil servant. If I were in government, I would call in the people at the head of the civil service and I would say, no longer. This is not to happen. You've got to do an investigation into this. You've got to lay down the law to all your underlings. You've got to make some examples out of people who refuse to go along with it. Flush them out. Anyone who behaves like this in the civil service should be out.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, for me, it seems very, very, very clear. If someone wants to put their preferred pronouns on their letterheads or whatever, I couldn't care less. I feel I have the right to judge them for that, for being very, very silly in my view. But if they want to do that, that's fine. But there should be no requirement that I play along with that.
And there is at the moment the training that these people are getting, like they've leaked some of the training and it's by outside groups that are absolutely signed up to gender ideology. And it literally shows a woman saying to a man who's dressed in women's clothes, sorry, this is the women's loos, the men's is over there. And then it explains that she's a bigot for saying that. And he waits around the corner until she's moved and then he goes in. So it's not just about belief. It's that women are told they must give up their privacy, their dignity, their safety, their rights to single-sex places at work, because that's the law, by the way. You have to have single-sex toilets in workplaces, and that if they say a damn thing about this, they'll get reported and they'll get called things like Nazi.
It's just extraordinary. It really, really is. Helen Joyce, author of Trans, Gender Identity and the New Battle for Women's Rights. She's also head of advocacy at Sex Matters. Let's bring back in Sam Armstrong. This is the bit I found extraordinary. Every time I do get a chance to, very few chances to interview government ministers on this issue, it always amazes me that whether it's in the NHS, or whether it's, the Home Office, any of the Whitehall Department, they allow this madness to creep in. They're paying, we the taxpayers, via the government, are paying the wages of the civil servants. They're supposed to be politically neutral. This is a political issue now, and this is bullying and harassment of members of staff who won't play along with it, and yet they do nothing to stop it. Why has the government been so achingly poor at dealing with this?
It is also a huge assault on free speech.
Yep.
We had a case at the Free Speech Union over the weekend reported of a senior medical officer, voluntary officer, given his life over to serving this country in war, highly commended, fired for tweeting a quote from Helen Joyce. A senior military officer who...
You won his case for him.
Won his case.
But there's still the stress
happened to
and the
be
trauma.
trans, had said that Helen Joyce, who we just had on, said that every trans person is a problem to be dealt with. She'd never said that. She's never believed it. She doesn't think it. That's not her view. Yet that senior civil servant said, investigate this officer because she said that. She didn't. An investigation has cleared him. The officer that put him up for investigation, will they receive punishment?
That's the key thing, isn't it? I just don't understand why government can't. You can outlaw this straight away if you need. If they wanted to, they could. And I think they're wanting to make it. Let's keep the culture war going because it's a good dividing line at the election. I worry if we're going to get a Labour government, this is going to get even worse before it gets better. This is about your freedom to believe and know facts. This is terrified that that's under question. Sam Armstrong, it's been fabulous having your company all this morning. Thank you very much. More to come after the news break. This is Talk Breakfast.